What's up everyone, Sixpenny here, and I'm back with another PGA Tour 2K23 video, and today I'm going to provide a full beginner's guide tutorial to improve your ability to putt in PGA Tour 2K23. Putting in this game is one of the hardest mechanics to get down. It's one of the most difficult to learn, but what I'm going to try to teach you today is the system that I use. Keep in mind there are many different ways you can putt, but you can apply a lot of my system and use in different ways. You know, some people putt by only feel, which means, okay, it's all breaking to the right, so I'm just going to I'm going to aim this much to the left and then hit the shot. I do a number system. It's actually the same way I putt in real life golf as well. So that's what I'm going to teach you today. It's a combination of feel. It's a combination of assigning numbers to different portions of the green. And I'm going to teach you distances, green speeds. We're going to go over a lot in this video. And towards the end, we're going to get on out to the actual golf course. That's not the training facility. I'm going to show you actual putts and how I approach them. So if you get some enjoyment, drop a like, subscribe if you want to see more. You will see a full tutorial series for this game, just like I did for 2K21. If you're new here, you'll see everything: elevation, wind, lie percentages, putting, chipping, short game, bunker shots. You're going to see it all here. You can check out the full playlist in the description. If you're looking for an ultimate beginner's guide, I also have that on the channel as well for beginners. If you want to, it's really designed to help you just improve at the game overall. But here we go. You get yourself to the practice. So the best thing to go is go to the practice facility. The same thing you start in training. So to access this from the menus, you're gonna go to casual, go down to training, and then it's gonna start you in the pause menu. It's gonna start you in the pause menu. If we take a look here, and you're gonna select practice because it's gonna start you in the driving range, and you're gonna want to go to putting practice. So that's where we are right now at this point, and it's going to take you to different greens. You can actually cycle between the greens. So some of you will be like, how do you cycle? So you cycle by double tapping LB. See how it sent me to this green? If I double tap LB again, it goes to this green. If I double tap it again, it's going to take me to this green. So there's 4 different greens you can practice putting on. You have to double tap LB or RB on the controller. So this is the last LB one, so I have to double tap RB to go back to the other greens. So they all have a little bit different breaks, and you can practice whichever one you want to. We're going to practice for now on this green. This green is actually a good starting point if we're just working on distances and working on getting your control on the green. So when you're learning this game for this video purposes, I usually play on Master plus difficulty setting, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to be using the distance control meter, so you can actually see and kind of see how it feels, and you can learn how to hit the game that way, because most of you will probably be playing on the pro default matchmaking difficulty. That's what a lot of people play on. So one thing I want to add as well, when you're practicing, turn on auto mulligan to where you keep hitting the same putt over and over. You can hit B on the controller and move your ball wherever you want to on the green and hit A again to select that spot. But if you just want to keep working on the same read, make sure you turn on auto mulligan. If you don't, it'll take you to a different spot each time. So another thing I forgot to mention, I like to turn on unlimited putt previews when I'm learning putting. So, because you can test your work, right? If you don't have putt previews on, how are you going to see what did you misread? Where did you misread when you're learning this game in practice rounds? You won't be able to use them in competitive rounds, but to learn the mechanics, why not turn it on and test your work? So I approach each putt with different steps. So I follow the same exact pattern. I do it really quickly when I do it. I do it really quickly now. So when you watch me in my live streams or in my videos, when I'm reading putts, I do this all in my head really quickly. But when you're starting out, get a system. The first thing is you're going to set your distance. And the distance that the game gives you by default, it's going to aim me at 21 feet. The flag gives you the information. So it's a 19-foot putt uphill 2 inches. The game does an excellent job this year of giving you a good holding speed distance on all the green speeds. There's some exceptions with downhill putts. I like to play those safe, and I'm going to talk about that. But you'll hear when you're watching videos, watching live streams of this game, people are going to refer to the green speeds as numbers instead of like slow, medium, very fast, fast, which is the in-game settings. They're going to use a number. So if you look at the top right of the screen, you see how it says 104? That's showing if I hit a putt on a flat green, if I hit a putt on a flat, completely flat surface, a full 100% putt, this green, the ball is going to travel 104 feet. This is a slow green speed, right? And you can only practice on the slow green speed in the practice facility. That's an unfortunate thing. You cannot manipulate the green speed here. That's why I'm going to do on the course examples in this towards the end of this video because of that reason. But this green speed is 104, which basically means it's a slower variant. You'll see a lot of numbers, 148, 156, 188, which is super fast in this game. I'll teach you to be very cautious on those putts, especially downhill. But that's your green speed in the top right, and that's the numbers people are referring to when they say, oh, it's a 148, it's a 156, especially in the competitive scene in PGA. But when you get to it, the first thing you want to do is set your distance. This game automatically every time will set the distance for you. When you first load into a putt, is it always extremely accurate? No, but it is an aggressive, good holding speed. It's a lot of times on slow greens, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. You'll see it's 2 inches uphill. What I mean by that, 2 inches uphill, you add 2 feet to it. So 2 inches uphill, you add 2 feet. When you get to higher greens, it can actually change just a little bit, but I'm telling you all, stick to what the game gives you. It's actually really good. I played 30 hours so far on PC, 30 hours so far on Xbox. I'm on the Xbox right now. The game's default distance is really good. Downhill putts is the exception, and with downhill putts, you want to take off 2 to 3 feet on medium green. So if you're in the 1.3, 1.5, so 130 full speeds at the if it says 130 at the top of the screen, or 150s, you'll want to take off a little bit on downhill putts, like 2 to 3 feet. On 188s on downhill putts, you're going to want to take off a whole, but we're talking about 5 to 6 feet. You can do it by grid lines as well. You can do it by 2.5 grid lines or 3. But trust me, 188s, 17s, be very careful. But once you have the distance set, the game does that math for you a lot of the times. It comes down to reading the putt. So if you all are not familiar, I know it's more designed for beginners. The grid lines are moving in the way that the green is sloped. So if the grid lines are moving to the right, that means it's a left to right slope. So the ball is going to roll left to right in this example. So if I hit a straight putt here, it's going to break to the right. That's what the grid lines were showing, right? And one thing I've found on the Xbox Series X, grid lines are much easier to see. On PC version, grid lines are a little bit inconsistent. And I'm probably going to do a full tutorial for just PC players to learn how to read the break even when the grid's not moving. It's called a ghost break, and wow, does it happen all the time. You're going to hear that term when you're watching people play this game, ghost break. It happens a lot. But, so this is moving left to right. So basically, if the grid lines, the faster the grid lines are moving, the more it's going to break. You also have different colors. There's green, yellow. Yellow slopes are breaking a lot more. There's yellow, there's orange, which is like a yellowish orange. We can kind of see a yellowish orange if we take a look back here. So we have the yellowish orange grid lines, and there's red. You would not see a lot of red grid lines in this game where the pin is, because the green speeds are so much more realistic this year. So there's the red. Those things break a ton. So as we take a look at this putt, we already got our distance down. We're not going to mess with that. But what we're going to go to is take a look at how I read the break. So what I do is assign numbers to each grid line point. So each grid line on this game, so if we go to a grid line, this is 14 feet. Each grid line is about 3 feet long. So they're basically exactly 3 feet long. So this is exactly how I putt in real life. I separate the green into 3 feet segments, assign a number based on the break at each segment, and that's how much I aim to the left or right. In real life, I use ball lengths, but in this game, I use a click system, or flick of the stick is what I call it. So as we take a look, I'm going to go slow here. Remember, when you watch me play, you can watch all my videos. I have tons on the channel already. I am pretty quick. So what I do, we already know our distance, because you can move. My favorite way to do, instead of using right trigger and left trigger, you can do that. I think it's easier to aim. So I hit the Y button here, and then I use the left stick to aim all the way down at the ground. And now I'm going to move the right stick to change my distance to look at the grid. So I assign based on how quick it's moving and based on the slope. So the reason I like to do this, because you can see the bottom of the screen. You're learning this game. You see how the line at the bottom, you can see it on the left. You can't see it on the right. That means it's breaking left to right, right? That's it. The lines, we already know that because of how fast the line's moving. So what I would do, I would assign a number. This grid line is moving, it's kind of slow. I would assign a 4 in this situation. But then I would move to the next grid line. I'd say, okay, this is about the same. I would assign a 4. That's an 8. Then I would go to the next one. I'm like, this grid line is about the same speed. That's a 4. So that's 12 total. And then I would go on to the next one here, a 4. They're all the same speed. It's much easier to see on Xbox. That's 16. And this grid line is not moving at all. It's flat. And this grid line is moving just a touch. You see it barely moving across the screen. It's so slow. I'd assign that like a 1. And then I also assign a number based on if the flag's moving to the left or right at the end. It's hard to see. It's very subtle. This one is moving slightly. So I would assign a 1. So we're at 17, 18. So you're like, well, what in the world does that mean, Ryan? Well, it means I'm going to barely move my stick left 18 times. So I'm going to barely move my stick left 18 times, and that's how I'd hit the putt. And then it has to pass the eye test. So what did I just do? I read this, and I'm like, okay, this looks like it's a bit too much. That's about 18 flicks of the stick for me. You can even map this out. If this was 18, if I did a full grid, that would be around 30. So each half grid line would be about 15, right? So you could do it that way and do it really quick, which is what I do in my rounds. When you see me play, it's like, oh, I aim a little bit to the left and send it. You think I'm just playing by feel, but it's a combination of feel and knowing what the speeds are. So don't forget, though, pertinent time to explain this. Do not forget, when you're down on the green, you hit Y, you hit the left stick, you're moving the aim marker to look at the different grids, speeds. Do not forget, when you exit back out, to hit the RB button on the controller and reset your distance back to the game's default distance. Trust me, I've made that mistake too many times to count. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to barely flick the stick. It's so subtle. You can see this, like barely. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 flicks of the stick. That's my read. So then I look at it and I'm like, wait a second. I'm going to use my vision, my gamer vision. I'm going to hit Y and then use the left and right trigger to move around. I can even move the left stick around and you can look at the putt from both sides. I know experienced players already know this. I doubt there's many experienced players watching this video. This is designed for beginners. So once we get in that position, I'm going to do the eye test and be like, I'm going to imagine the ball rolling across the green and be like, I just don't really think it's going to break that much. So then you make your correction. It's like, okay, I don't think it's going to break that much. I'm going to take a little bit off. You could also say, I think I need to hit it a bit harder because I want to be a bit more aggressive. Or if it's more downhill with fast green speeds, you can be like, you know, I like the read, but I want to take distance off of it. Make those last second corrections. Use your brain, use your feel. But this system, what it allows you to do when you assign numbers, when you're playing around, you're going to adapt. You may have this putt on hole number 1, right? And you miss it completely. So on hole number 2, you're like, okay, I assigned a 4 to these grid lines. I need to assign like a 3 or 2 this next time. And you're going to respond. Or if you blow a putt way past the hole, you can respond to that. If you're just playing by feel, how do you know which grid line broke? Like mine is by feel, right? I assign the numbers. So the more you watch me, you can learn, but pick the numbers. So that I chose 4. If those were moving faster, if it's a green, you know, a green could go all the way up to 10. Usually above 10 is the faster moving greens, or you get into the yellows would be like 10 to 20, 25, and then so forth. Honestly, I haven't seen a red slope on a pin location yet on this game besides a downhill slope. So yeah, so basically green anywhere from 0 to 10, yellow anywhere from 10 to 25, depending. Some of the greens are actually pretty quick on this game. So to take a look at this, if we just move our A marker, see these greens? Those are not 4s. These greens are moving quick. I would assign these greens probably a 10 to 15 back in the ones where my grid line's on. But again, these numbers are a lot by feel, right? Because a lot of people last year were like, I want an exact number, and that's not my system. The system that I use specifically, there are so many varieties in grid lines. If you start assigning exact numbers the same way every time, you're gonna miss so many putts, right? So to me, respond, pick a number, respond. If it doesn't work, adjust your numbers through time. The more you play this game, you're not even gonna assign numbers. It's gonna be in your head. You're like, I've got it down. I've got it down now. The numbers helps you in the beginning, and this is more for a beginner's guide, right? All right, so now once we reset our putt, so you're gonna go back and move. So I remember my read I gave it was 18, right? So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna move it 18. So I'm gonna barely move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. But what did I say? Do the eye test. If you're looking for distance, you're visualizing the ball rolling through the putt, and my eye test, I actually don't think that this ball is going to break that much. So I'm actually going to take a little bit off the read here, take just a touch, because I don't think it's going to break. I think it's going to be about 15. So that would mean for 15 to be the right number, let's assign 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 plus 13 for the one right next to before the hole, and then 1 for the last one, 14, 15 at the hole. So 15 click read, but then you're practicing unlimited putt previews are on. Hold down the X button on the Xbox controller, square button on PlayStation, and we got our read. It's a 15 click putt. Distance was perfect. All you have to do now is hit the right power, and that's where the next step comes in. You have the read, you have everything picked out. You're not going to be playing your competitive rounds with putt preview. This is just for practice, but you're going to click. What I recommend when you're learning this game, I'm going to hide my face for a second so you can see. You're going to click the left stick in and see how it says practice swing at the left side, left bottom of the screen. You're going to go in the practice swing and practice. When you're playing this game, hitting that white perfect region here, that white perfect region is so tiny. It's so hard to hit the perfect power. So what you're going to do, just work on pulling the stick back and stopping it on the white portion. You're not even swinging forward. You're just getting a feel for the club. If you have haptic feedback turned on, playing on a controller, you're going to feel a vibration. My controller vibrates right at the gray, right here. But you want to swing a little slightly after that. If you're a little bit slow in your reactions, swing right at the vibration, but get a feel for it. And then once you have a feel, do a practice swing. I overpowered that, right? Pay attention. 45 is what we want. The swing meter at the right after the putt is going to tell you your swing plane, how straight your putt was, and it's going to tell you your distance. I want to hit 45. I keep hitting 47. I am blasting these balls, and let me tell you, you overpower in this game, you are going to send it, even on a gray overpower. So really work on this. This is the hardest thing on the game, in my opinion. Not only reading the greens, but getting the right power. Do practice swings when you're learning this game. Don't be afraid to practice in matchmaking. Just, maybe not spend too long so your opponent doesn't get too upset, but work on pulling back as straight as you can, pushing forward as straight as you can, hitting the right power. You can even separate it. You'd be like, I'm only going to work on swing plane. I don't care about power. I'm just going to work on pulling back, hitting forward as straight as I can. I'm looking I'm looking to see how straight my swing plane is. I will say swing plane is very forgiving on putting this year, especially with a higher swing path. So if you're using the greensman archetype, putting is going to be easier. Also, if you're struggling with putt weight, which is the perfect putt power, greensman might be the perfect archetype for you starting the game, because that white perfect region is going to be bigger. So that may be the one for you. So work on perfect power, getting that perfect feel for the vibration if you're on controller, and I keep overpowering. So here's what you can do. You're going to be different each round, right? Your feel is going to change. You may be under hitting one whole round. You may be over hitting the next round. That's golf, right? It's going to change. The thumb's not going to be perfect every time. So then compensate. If I hit 5 practice swings and I overpower it by 5% every time, I better be taking off distance to my original read so that I don't blast this ball past the hole, especially on a downhill putt. If you're overhitting downhill putts, take off distance. Take off like 3 to 5 feet. Trust me. Trust me. So now after you've done your practice swing, you're like, I can hit close to 44, 45, 46%. And you keep, or maybe you keep overhitting and you decide to take distance off, then go to the shot. What I do, I don't swing first swing. I'm still feeling. I feel for it. I get a rhythm. I'm looking, choose one spot on the screen. I'm looking at the ball. I'm looking at the ball completely. I'm looking at the back of my putter. Another thing you can do is click the right stick in. It could be left stick if you're swinging with the right stick. This view right here is my favorite view for putting. This view right here, you can really see how far you're bringing the club back. And what you can do is watch the putter, and when that putter at that white mark hits a certain spot at the ground, it's hard to see with the shadow right now, but I'm looking at that spot on the ground. As soon as the club gets there, that's when I swing forward. So that's how I do it. So I got a feel for it. We're going to hit the putt. Overpowered it by 2%. It still went in, but did you notice when you overpower a putt, it's going to take off break. So I missed it. We still made it. Our read was right. If I had a perfect power, it's going to reset you back exactly where you were. So I'm going to try to hit a perfect power. What did I do? Overhit it again. It's still going to make it at 47%. But if I hit more than that, it's going to miss. See if we get that perfect power. So close. It's so challenging. We still made it. So the read was right. But what I could do, if I keep overpowering it, let's take off a foot. Let's hit 20 feet. And then we overpower it. We hit the same percent. Right? I was hoping to hit like a 44 now. There we go. 45. And we made it. Right? So that's how you can kind of change throughout. So that is how I approach every single putt in this video game. And we are going to actually, now if I was doing a downhill putt, let's head up here. If I'm doing a downhill putt, so the game's going to gives a pretty good default distance on most of the green speeds. If I was on higher green speeds here, like I'm at 104s now at the top right. If I'm at 150, you better believe I'm going to be taking off at least one grid line. At 1.6 or higher, I'm probably taking off 2 or 3 grid lines. At 1.88s and higher, I am taking off like 5 or 6 grid lines from my distance. And downhill putts are going to break more than uphill putts. Keep that in mind when you're assigning numbers. Downhill putts break a lot more than uphill putts. And just work at it. Keep practicing assigning numbers. I usually play without the power bar though. If you're playing without the power bar, you feel for that. You have to get a feel for it. It takes a lot of practice. So I'm actually going to see you on an actual golf course, and we're going to read a putt as we start closing up. I wanted to provide an ultimate beginner's guide to putting on this game. I will be doing more putting tutorials. Probably a shorter version as well, but I want a full, most of you have asked me, I want a thorough putting just like in 2K21, and that was my go today. And we're going to head to the course on fast green speeds so you can actually see it. So let's go on out to the course. So here we are. We are on hole number 2 of the home course of the channel, Six Pennies Lair. If you don't know the home course, I have a video on it, Six Pennies Lair right there. But on this course, I picked it because I knew it had really fast green speeds. We're at 175s at the top right. That means if I hit a full shot on flat green speeds, this putter is going 175. And we did a simple example on that last one. I wanted to show you all a more advanced example here. So here we go. We have a double breaker that's moving uphill and then downhill towards the flag. It says it's flat, but look at what Daniel, the designer of this course, Drummond's 83, did. At the pin, everything is moving downhill. If you overhit this thing, you are in trouble. So I kept hitting it around the green till I found a spot that would be a great example. But I wanted to choose an extreme example because keep in mind, this is not a cookie cutter way to putt. I think the signing numbers is the best way to actually get a feel for how things are moving. If you're assigning numbers, you know how to respond when you miss a putt. You're gonna assign numbers wrong. You're gonna be like, I have no clue what to assign. And that's okay, just assign something. Assign something based on how much you think it's gonna break. You know, if I move my stick over 10 times, it's gonna be there. That's a 10-click putt. Be like, okay, I moved it. That doesn't look right. So this is a 20-click putt. So you could just move it around. This is like 25. So like, get your own system, stick with your system. You can just go by feel, which is like, okay, this is a double breaker. It's breaking both ways. Let's just aim a little bit to the left and send it. But at the end of the day, are you really, at the end of the day, you're going to miss a lot more putts and not know how to respond on the rest of the round. But here we go, everybody. We get to the green here. We got to assign our numbers first step. The game gives a good defaulted distance if you read the putt right on fast green speeds. If you misread this putt or if you overhit it in the slightest, this putt is going to be full sent all the way down this hill on this game. Trust me, I've done it multiple times. Don't make the same mistakes as I do. So here we go. The ball is sitting. If you pay a look at this, take a look. So I'm going to hit Y, move the left stick on my controller, and then I'm going to start moving the right stick. It may be the left stick for your, depending on what control method you're using, to look at the green. These beginning grids are still green, but look how much they're moving. When I align the bottom of the screen with the right side, the left side is way more in front. That means it's a really big breaking left to right putt. I would assign this number above a 10. So remember when I said green 0 to 10, but really a 0 to 15 is probably better. Sometimes 0 to 15 is probably a better designing for that, especially on these greens right here. So I'm going to assign a 12 for this first spot of the break. We're going to go 3 more feet past. I'm going to assign another 12. They look exactly the same. Maybe a 10. It might be breaking less. Let's actually assign a 10 on the second one. So that's 22. And then we're going to assign, this one's barely moving. It's moving quicker than the ones on the last green. I'm going to go 6. So that's 22 plus 6. 28. Okay, so as we're moving on here, we're up to 28, right? And this one looks like it's moving just barely. It looks pretty flat, but I'm going to assign it. I'm not even going to assign it. It looks flat. It's uphill. Uphill putts, you need to assign less numbers on uphill putts because the ball, especially at the beginning, because the ball is traveling at its fastest speed at the beginning. I'm not even going to assign this one. But then they're moving the opposite way. You're like, wait, what do? Subtraction. A negative number, right? We have 28. This grid line here, it looks exactly like this grid line here, right? So I'm going to assign a 6. So basically 28 minus 6, 22. And then this one, they're basically all 6s here. They look like they're moving the exact same speed. They're all moving. I'm going to assign a 6. So 22 minus 6, 26. 26 minus 6 is 20. And then the pin is in between 2 of the same grid. So like this next one is about a 6 right here. So the pin is in the middle. I'm going to assign a 3. So that would be, we're to 17. Our initial read is 17 flicks of the stick to the left, very similar to the last putt we had. Now keep in mind, I got so many comments last year of like calling me a nerd, and that much is true. I am a golf nerd. But the number system is not a cookie cutter way, and I know I've said that a lot, that your numbers are specific to you on how you feel. You're going to change what the numbers allow you to do is have a system and know how to respond. Respond during a round is so key. If you're missing high side every single time, you're assigning too high of numbers to the grids. If you're missing low side every time, you're assigning low numbers, too low numbers every single time. You can't make every putt in this game, but I don't make every putt in this game. And you all that watch me that know that. But this system has helped me ever since the first golf club game, and that's why I share it with you all. I realize it's not for everybody, but you can learn some of it. Like, hey, if I misread it by aiming too far to the left or too far to the right, well, I need to respond. But if you go it all by feel, hey, I like it, but also be careful out there. Learn the different grids, how they're moving, and why you're missing. But here we go. What's the lat? We got to read 17 to the left is what I need to aim. 17 small movements of the thumbstick. They're tiny. Look at this. Mouse and keyboard, that's a little bit harder. You just barely lightly click the arrow direction in. But we're at, what did I say earlier? Distance. The game gives me 26. I do not want to roll past the hole. Yes, we're hitting into an uphill slope at the beginning of the putt. It's uphill first, and then it's downhill towards the hole. I do not want to go too far. You have to think about, where would you rather miss this putt? Yeah, you can go with the game's default. It's a good holing speed. But if you miss and overhit it on the practice, if I overhit it at 42% every single practice swing, you better believe I'm taking off about a foot or two. So I am actually going to go ahead and take off a grid line, which may not even be enough here. Because it says it's a level putt. It's uphill and down here. But here we go. We got to move the stick 17 times. About exactly where we were the last time. Then we have to look through the eye test. Hit the Y button. Move the left stick down. Use left trigger and right trigger. Don't move the right stick anymore. You're going to change your distance. Look at the ball. Visualize the ball rolling. Is it really going to break that much at the beginning and break back that much at the end? I actually think I'm sticking with my original read. In my mind, I'm thinking it may not break that much at the beginning up the hill. So we may miss this. But what are we going to do? We have our distance. We're just practicing and learning. Putt preview. Hold down the X or square button. It broke quite a bit at the beginning. It starts to slow down. We played it safe. But look, we're short, right? We didn't row too far, but what was I compensating for? Where I wanted to miss. Read is good. If all I do, if I hit the distance the game gives me here, which is what I'm already compensating for by aiming here, because I know I'm going to overhit it, right? I overhit almost everything in this game, but I compensated for it. I don't have to worry about going too far here unless I just get crazy. So this is a perfect read, even though it doesn't look perfect. Another way you can compensate, if I hit a perfect power, I anticipated, I played this safe, right? I wanted to come up short if I miss. But what am I most likely going to do is overpower it, because I always do. Again, there's a practice swing, I overpower. That would underpower, which I'd be short. I'd rather be short than far. There's another overpower, right? I'm still working on that. So practice swing's over. Now we hit the putt. So let's hit the putt. Slight overpower. Is it enough of an overpower to make the putt? Yes, it is. Let's go. What did we do? We compensated to where we didn't want to miss by taking distance off. I've been overhitting everything in this video game. I compensated for it because it's faster green speeds with the downhill spot at the hole. We compensated. We responded. We overhit the putt like we expected and made it. Perfect read. 17 click putt, aim to the left. We hit it. I've been assigning these numbers for a year. I use the same system in real life. My golf coach taught it to me because I could not read putts at all without assigning numbers. That is why I do it. That is my system. I will be making more videos on this system so that you can understand it. All you have to do is watch me. You can come in a live stream. You can come in a live stream and be like, hey, can you go through this putt you're doing with me? Can you go through this putt and show me how many flicks of the stick to move? Yeah, I can do that. Unless I'm in a competitive round, I will do that, right? So that is my system. You all can use it or not, but you can use some fundamentals. You know, even if you don't want to look at each grid line, just be like, okay, this looks like it's going to break 17 flicks of the stick to the left. Or what was, remember, 15 flicks is basically 1/4 of a grid line. 30 is about 1/2 of a grid line. That's one thing you can use if you don't want to count. I always, each time, basically move through that system when I assign the numbers. A lot of times you'll see me, I do it pretty quickly, and I will do this. I have them in my brain. Like if I move it for a second, it's that. If I move it for another second, it's that. But that is how I putt, everybody. I hope somebody got some enjoyment and found this helpful. I know it's an ultimate beginner's guide on putting, so there is a lot in this to unpack and work on. If you have any questions, let me know, and let me know how you putt. If you don't use this system, let me know your system down below. Some people just hit and pray. That's okay. Some people just aim a little bit to the right and smash it. Everybody has their own system, right? So let me know your system down below. I know there's always that one comment who says, "You're a nerd, Ryan, but I still love you." So hey, leave that comment if you want. But drop a like if you got some enjoyment. Subscribe for more. Plenty more tutorials coming your way on all aspects of this video game. I know this was an in-depth guide on putting. I want to get everything out here for you all, and somebody's going to get some enjoyment out of different parts and some help out of all sections of this. That's why I usually cut a little bit out, but not a lot. But I will see you in the next video. Check the full playlist in the description for all gameplay tutorials for PGA Tour 2K23. I will see you next time. Maybe I'll see you in a live stream on Twitch. As always, have a fantastic day, everybody.